Welcome, everybody, to this week's installment of The Neighborhood Watch.
Yes.
With Dr. K and
Me. Who am I?
Peter.
Oh, yes. Yes. How are you doing, Dr. K?
I'm doing good. Pete, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy that we get to at last talk about this movie that we have mentioned in every episode.
That's right.
And almost every time we talk, we mention it.
That's right. And now we're going to cash in.
Yes.
So, people, we actually recorded a what arguably could have been the greatest masterpiece ever known to mankind.
I think so.
It was 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
It was your two hosts doing an absolute marquee. It was our life's work.
I know.
Our
It was everything.
It was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And then I didn't watch the hard drive, and we found out that for all we know, 10 seconds into it, the hard drive crashed, and so we didn't record anything.
No. So it's
And it's funny because we were like dancing around, patting each other on the back, like, we've done it.
this is it.
We've conquered the world.
We don't have to do another episode after this.
And then we cried.
Yeah.
So we're back.
So that was that like I told you, that was
Yes.
a great rehearsal
That's right.
for the greatness that will be this episode.
That's right.
Not to put any pressure on us.
Not
but
at all. Not
this
at
will
all.
be the best thing we've ever done in our lives.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here we are. We're going to do The Shining, and we're going to parallel The Shining with the very, very interesting documentary Room 237.
Yep.
I always say it wrong. 237, not 327, which
Right.
was like a TV show in the late 80s. With
Right.
Didn't it have what it had? What's her Flo from the Jeffersons, right? And that was like the address of their
Yeah.
brownstone.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
like
getting some
327.
I'm getting some dim.
Right.
You're not thinking about 321 Contact, are you?
Oh no,
was-
but that
okay,
was a great
that was
show
a good
too.
one,
I
yeah.
watched
Yeah.
quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
That
had-
was right between Sesame Street and what was the other one? The one with Spider-Man and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
That's
what I was gonna say. Morgan Freeman.
That one.
That was great.
Good stuff. Anyway,
Yep,
sorry,
yep.
We're,
No.
we're reminiscing.
No, yeah. So 237, but it's good that you
Room
remember
237,
237 because that's another big thing on form of contention between people that read the book and then people that love the movie.
That's
is,
right.
Is Room 237 didn't even actually exist in the book.
Right.
That was a creation by Stanley Kubrick.
Correct.
And why? Why did he choose that number?
Right.
So many theories.
So many theories.
Yeah.
Which is probably, almost certainly, why that had to be, if not the reason, one of the best reasons to call the documentary that.
Right. Yep.
Right. Because the documentary really follows, we didn't count, but there's probably 6 or 7 conspiracy theorists.
Yep. Easily.
Some of whom are like neck deep in their obsession with The Shining.
For sure.
And some of the ideas are like, man, they're pretty radical. Some of the ideas were actually pretty good.
Yeah, thought-provoking.
But there was a lot of crazy downward spiraling.
Yeah, and I think that's what we
assumption.
Yep, and when we were talking about it, that was after we had watched it, that was one of the things that was interesting for us because we remembered seeing that movie before and liking it.
Right.
And then we saw it and we didn't like it.
Right.
And it made us upset.
It was crazy.
And then later as we talked about it more, we started to realize, but I think, where we're at now kind of is that the guys that made Room 237 were just kind of serving up like, look at
right.
Look at all how this movie makes everybody crazy.
You are absolutely right.
They weren't actually.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
They weren't pointing. They weren't saying, "Oh, maybe this is true," or look. Even they weren't even in a condescending way either. Like saying, like, look how crazy they are. They were just kind of like, here they are. They're going to tell you what they think about this movie.
That's right.
And then like at the end of it, you're just sitting there going like, wow, people really go off the deep end when they start thinking about this.
Yeah. And it really is, and it's interesting, right? Because we don't ever, the filmmakers never disclose who they are. The entire thing is told through these people, right? All giving their takes on why we see what we see in The Shining.
Yep. And we don't ever see them either.
But we don't ever see them. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what's
So yeah,
interesting,
which is, I mean, it's a really cool documentary.
It is.
But you're right, and it's funny because, yeah, the first time we each saw it, we'd each seen it once, but not together. And you're absolutely right. We were like, oh, dude, that was cool.
Yeah,
you know?
can't wait to see that again.
I know when I was watching it, it was like 2 a.m. My brother told me, oh, hey, you got to watch this. Yeah. And so one night I'm just sitting in this studio right here, lights off, watched it, and I had no expectations, and when I got done, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's kind of cool." But and I think I said this the first time we talked about it. It's probably because I didn't think of it critically at all. Yeah, I just kind of took it for what it was and just soaked it in. Yeah, and so I was like, "Okay, cool." But then when we went to watch it the second time, it's funny because we even prefaced it like, "Oh, okay, we should really like pay attention to to what they're." Saying now, and you're right, man. We went from like smiles to like kind of grim by the end, and then we were totally antagonistic as our first version of shooting this episode went on.
Yeah,
we were like throwing some pretty crazy punches.
Yeah, they made us angry. Those people made us angry.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into why here soon. So we're listeners, we're gonna be jumping back and forth between The Shining and Room 237 because. We're probably gonna. I'm guessing this is how it's gonna go, but we're gonna give our takes on what we love about the movie and the whys we love it and what we think, and then probably on every single point, there's gonna be what the conspiracy theorists in the documentary think about why, and that's usually where all of our hackles start sticking straight up.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
The one thing I will definitely say, I can say unequivocally, is that none of the people that they were interviewing were using very much reason in their explanations for anything. They kind of abandoned reason and really went to the like what they wanted, right? So they brought something to the table, and then they needed to explain what they brought to the table, right? So if they were a shut-in who never goes outside, then it was all about being a shut-in who never goes outside, and the world's going to kill you. And everything else, right? And they all kind of had their weird. Some of them were very idiosyncratic, and some a little bit less. But the more that it would jump back and forth between each of them, and the filmmakers in the documentary did a really great job of, it's not like we just heard all of one person give their take. They kept jumping back and doing a round table
and stuff.
And so you'd be like, oh, well, here comes now this guy's back with his,
the World War II guy. Where he says everything is a Nazi symbol, right?
Every single thing, all of it,
because he teaches World War II history at some college, and I mean, I think that now that we've had a couple weeks to think about this and stuff, I feel like now I understand one of the things I think that that kind of resonates, I guess, with why they made Room 237 the way they did, is that it's almost in a bigger universal way. It's showing us how we all do this for the movies that we love.
Yeah, absolutely right.
We all look at these movies, right?
Killed it.
Right? We look at these movies and then we say, this is why this is important.
That's right.
To me.
Yep.
And the movie is speaking directly to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
they all believe that.
Oh man, they do. And they're so radically they're all within their own weirdness. They're and then I think the part that I took the most beef with was I didn't agree with hardly any of what they were saying, right? And so
that's one thing I would say is, could you at least given us one point of view that was a little bit more like coherent, maybe?
Right. Well, because and I'm going to speak for you, Peter, here, but you and I both love movies, and we love the movie making part of it. So writing the story, executing the story, making the film, execution of the film, and what it takes to get a group of people together to do this, right? So that sounds maybe boring because it's very, very practical. But
but there's so much there though too, right? Like
and there's so much that I think it's great to search these things out and to pay attention to how did they execute? How did they get these things done? How did they happen? And the thing with the conspirators in the documentary is none of them ever ever touch on that subject. They don't ever want to admit that these were a bunch of people who wake up and have bad breath and they take a shit just like everybody else.
Right.
And they get headaches and they eat McDonald's just like everybody else.
Right.
And they all got together and they made a movie.
Yeah.
Right? None of them want to even get anywhere near that part of it. It's all about the huge underlying, unsaid, unspoken, this or that or the other or whichever crazy wild thing that they wanted to be in there, but it all has to be very, very cryptic and very secret.
And they're little clues kind of to...
And so they all, every one of them would abandon what we would call like, just like common sense. Reason, yeah. just plain reason.
Yeah.
Like... maybe he did that because it was in the script.
Yeah.
or and they don't interview anything. That's the other one that just kept killing me was the one lady wanted to make it sound like it's absolutely impossible to know because it was this huge crazy secret. And I was like, but that's not true because there are people alive who worked on the film. Yeah. And somebody could just go and ask them.
Right.
Now maybe nobody has, and maybe they took a secret pact or something that they don't want to tell. But I don't even believe that.
No.
I just believe that there hasn't been. The film is so awesome. The people who made it aren't going to come out and do a tell-all, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy in there, though.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Well, but I feel like now that you're talking about that, though, I feel like I wish that. There also that this other documentary did exist though, where they did go back and talk to the real people.
Oh, me too.
I mean, it could almost be a sequel to Room 237, right?
Right.
Because I would love to hear more from the real people that were there.
Absolutely.
And maybe the set designer is like, I put that poster of a skier there.
That's what I mean.
Because we didn't have any other things to put up there, and I thought that skier looked good.
Exactly.
And then here, meanwhile, we've got this girl who is watching the movie obsessively on her little.
On her VHS.
14-inch VCR TV combo. And she's saying, like, no, that poster is the Minotaur.
Yes.
And this is all a big thing about Theseus and oh, man.
Yeah.
It's just outer space.
It really is. Yeah. No, I could. And then the thing is, the one person who I found directly connected to it that does talk about it because he gets bombarded with questions is Stephen King, and the problem was he wasn't ever on set.
He was almost like
he was only a consultant in the very, very beginning, up until Kubrick kind of, they're gonna we're gonna, why did you do this, why did you do that, and I heard Stephen King give this great interview about ideologically, they had two polar different ideas about why the things are happening in the book. And so Kubrick's film is Kubrick's vision, and the book is Stephen King's vision. And I think that's awesome, but the problem there is that King has said time and again, he's like, I had nothing to do with the movie. They wrote me a huge check, and
he's like,
I answered some questions, and then he made his movie, and that's that.
And I think maybe in recent years he has said that he likes it more, but I know he hated it for years too. Like he just absolutely hated it.
Right.
Which, fair enough, I guess.
Totally.
I mean, it is kind of, it does probably hurt you from that point of view of like, these are all of my characters, these are my scenes, but then you went and did this with them, and now people think this is my book, and it's not,
Right.
So I can understand that, but But I mean, this is one of those few cases, and we mentioned this before 100 times, but it is one of those few cases I feel, you feel like this too, I know, that the movie is almost better than the book.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, like the movie, there's so much there in the movie.
It's so well executed.
Yeah, that it's just, I mean, there's just things in there that haunt me more than anything I've read in any of Stephen King's books.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And I love Stephen King.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
I
that's
love
more of a
his,
difference just simply, and this isn't to downgrade what you mean about the film being so good, or that's the Kubrick part of it, but that's the difference between film and literature, don't you think?
Yeah.
And so, but I mean both, right?
Yeah.
So not only is it that film can be more powerful, but that Kubrick like totally executed in a way that like you're talking about. It's like when you see it, it's just, man, I mean, I was getting the same chills when we were watching it like I did the first time that I watched it, you know, and that's difficult. For how many times, I mean, I'm speaking for us both here, but I mean, we both seen it about many times.
Right. And it still has that same power. And it's another one of those that feels completely divested from its time too.
Yeah. Oh man, like, isn't that beautiful?
Look at other movies from 1980, right?
Oh,
I mean,
how much disco was in this movie? Exactly. Zero.
Maybe the gold. That was about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Gold. So yeah, there's. I was gonna say, what's his name has bell bottoms.
Yeah.
But there's the music. We'll get into the music too. Yeah. So, but there's really. Yeah, 1980 suffered something horrible from disco. I mean, something terrible, man.
Yeah.
People, listeners, go watch Flash Gordon, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Disco, the idea, and I don't mean just the music. I mean the bigger disco, capital D disco, right?
The religion.
So, yes. Yeah.
The religion of disco.
The Dr. Roxo skiing down a mountain of cocaine disco, right?
Yep.
Just the excess and all of that, and you know all the gaudiness of it.
Oh yeah.
Too, but this film, really, man, you're right. Except maybe there's the weird when Halloran is it? You know, when he's back in Miami.
Yeah.
There's that. That's not quite disco-y, but it is kind of. Right. It's kind of like you feel like you're in 1980.
Yeah.
Or 1979.
Right. But
man, almost none, and that's difficult. That's really a difficult thing to do.
For as cheeseball and cornball as that era was.
Oh, right.
You look at other movies remember I mean this is a tough comparison, but Meatballs.
Like
just look at.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and a great movie too. Right. But man, it's dated.
I know.
You know exactly when and where you are.
Right. And the way that they talk and the way they act and everything is it's just so like it's so 1980.
Oh man.
Know? Whereas I mean
full volume 1980.
Yeah. Whereas you know like The Shining, I guess it has moments where it almost feels like it's satiring that type that way of talking, you know?
Right.
Like especially when he's going in the interview.
Yeah.
And he's talking back and forth with them, and you know, like it's got this very like artificial, like, well, hey, I'm glad you asked, and like that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But it's so creepy, and it's just so I guess there's so much tension underneath it,
right?
That it works.
Oh man, yeah, tension. I mean, this is one of the best exercises in tension ever, ever.
Yep.
Oh man, and there are so many reasons why, but it really is. How do you turn the screws on your audience? Because the first 3/4 of the movie, you only get at best, you'll get a tiny little glimpse of something to shock you. But there's no one big moment, right?
No.
It's a series of things happening that are just very, very, very slowly turning your screws. And I think this is part of why the conspiracy theories are so rampant, is that people have a very hard time coming to grips with that, on why they feel uncomfortable.
Why I'm scared.
And so they're saying there has to be a bigger reason that explains that we just don't know about, when in fact it's subtlety.
Yeah.
And it's scary to be afraid of subtlety. Right. That's what I think. That really is my take on that.
No, it's totally
why it works so well and why it freaks people out.
Yeah, I mean, I can just think about those twin little girls, and it gives me a chill just thinking about them. You know?
Yes.
And like they don't do anything; they just stand
They're
there
just standing
and
there.
hold hands, and then they turn around and walk away. But it's
the second time when they go, Donnie.
Yeah.
What's the line? It's like,
what was it?
Something
Come
good.
play with us.
Yeah, come play with us, Danny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
But the first time, they're just standing there.
I know.
And you're totally weirded out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's it's done so much with the camera work and the
sound design, right? We talked about this. This is a great segue into sound design. The fact the sound design, which is inseparable from the score, which is almost zero.
Yeah.
There's almost no score.
Right.
It's you talk about minimalism.
Yeah.
It's utterly minimalistic, and it's only there
just a couple notes
just
on the
to
piano,
mess with you.
Dun, dun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yep. But the sound design, oh man, everyone remembers the Big Wheels one, right? Every time you talk about it, part of it is that it's cool because it's 1980 and he's on a big wheel, right? So people our age are like, oh yeah, man, okay, I totally identify with Danny. Yeah. But it's not just that he's on the big wheel. It's the sound of the big wheel riding around a big, totally vacant, gigantic building. And so the sound design there is all that.
And then he gets on carpet and it's smooth for a little bit. And then
And so when he comes around and sees him, that stops. Right? So it's... And then they're standing there and you're like,
it just jolts you.
For
sure.
Yeah. Or the tennis ball, that thing. There's no other sound going on.
Yeah.
All you hear is that ba-dunk, ba-dunk, ba-dunk. And you're watching Jack descend
just going
into
crazy.
Hell. Right.
Yeah, expertly done.
Yep.
It's really expertly done. It's I mean, we were I think we mentioned this before, but the way that this movie starts too with the ghostly singing and screeching and stuff when they're going through the mountains and everything.
Yes.
I mean, and from that, that's the very beginning. That's the first few frames of the movie.
Yes.
From then on.
Right.
I mean, you're never once feeling like comfortable.
Right.
You know?
No. Yeah.
Maybe
exactly.
Maybe the only time you even feel slightly comfortable is when Scatman.
When Halloran's. Yeah.
You know, because he's like a very like warm.
That's right.
And like inviting kind of presence.
Yep. Well, and he's I think subliminally too. We're hoping that he's going to be the one who makes it okay.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen.
Definitely does not happen. Yeah.
But he's like our security blanket.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He's like the wise guide kind of giving Danny all the ropes.
Yes.
Do you shine?
So good old Hong Kong Philly. Man, I love that guy. Scatman Crothers, people. Go check him out.
Yeah.
His filmography is just fantastic.
Yes.
He was some of the better Transformers.
Yep.
Real Transformers, animated Transformers.
Yep.
And
Generation 1.
Generation 1, yes. He was Hong Kong Phooey. He was a whole bunch of Hanna-Barbera. He was a
great.
mountain of Hanna-Barbera characters.
Yeah.
But and then the great he was in that fantastic Ralph Bakshi movie Coonskin.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
With what's his name? Tubbs from
right from Miami Vice.
Miami Vice.
Yeah.
I'm gaping on that actor's name, and we'll dub it in now.
Right.
Philip Michael Thomas. Okay. What I just said there.
Yeah. It was him.
It was him. Great movie.
Man.
If you like obscurely weird animation that is.
That's one of Bakshi's first, right?
Yeah.
That's a great one.
I think that might have been the second one after Fritz the Cat.
Fritz the Cat. Yep.
I think that was next. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, Halloran's awesome.
Yeah.
I think this movie is so fun too. Just let's talk about performances for a second.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's performance in this is so unique, and it's so
You're right.
It's so how would you say, bombastic?
Oh man, yeah.
You know, like,
no.
Everything
and
is
it's great
like,
with such a small cast, right?
Yeah.
That's one of another just. I mean, I'm sure the book had a lot to do with this, but the thing is, we're not. It's great, like The Thing. We're dealing with a very, very small cast, right?
Definitely.
We've got the nuclear family, and the handful of support, which really, I mean.
Almost
really, I mean,
non-existent.
it's the doctor when she comes in the early part, right, to see Danny. There's the couple of dialogues there, and then it's Halloran, and it's the boss.
Yep.
And then
the
it's
boss's stooge.
The boss's stooge, yeah.
And then maybe the guy that they call on the radio. That's
Oh,
like the sheriff.
There we go. Yeah.
We see him for like, what, 2 seconds?
Oh, man, yeah, and he's only in one scene, too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Yep.
So everything is carried by Jack.
Yes,
and
Danny and
Danny and Wendy.
Wendy,
Yep.
thank you. I was thinking Shelley.
Yeah.
Oh, that's her real name. Yeah, it's Wendy. Wendy.
Shelley Duvall? No.
Shelley Duvall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shelley Duvall. And each one of them are just so great and so over the top, though. Really.
Oh man, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it works.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, because Jack ends up being over the top in his
craziness,
maniacal craziness, and then Wendy, by contrast, is just going from hardly stable
Right.
to completely unhinged, right?
Unhinged.
And then Danny's like stuck in the middle, man.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to be destroyed.
He was great.
But then I'm having visions, and the actor
was-
too. I
yeah.
can't say enough good things about.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, yep. Execution. Phew.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and you really feel sorry for Wendy, you know.
Oh, you do. You really
She's
do.
really trying.
You really do.
Jack is just in her
Oh man,
face.
it's even bad enough before he goes crazy.
I know,
right? You can
I
see
know.
how submissive she
Yeah,
is, and she's like
yeah.
really
He's-
kowtows
oh.
and caters to him.
Yep. And he's just go. And it's one of my favorite stories about The Shining is Kubrick showed it to Spielberg, right?
Oh yeah,
Did I tell you this?
yeah.
And then,
yeah.
Okay, so then
Yep.
Spielberg, you know, he's like, oh well, you know, he has kind of had that reaction a lot of us do after the first time we see The Shining.
Right.
It's just like, whoa, that was a lot to take in. And then Kubrick was like, what do you think about Jack Nicholson? And then Spielberg was like, well, he's a little over the top, a little bit. You couldn't rein him in just a little bit, and then Kubrick was like, okay. Tell me who your favorite actors are. And then he listed off like all of his favorite actors, Cary Grant and, you know,
Yep.
Gregory Peck and like all these classic actors. And then Kubrick said, that's interesting because not anywhere in your list did you mention James Cagney.
Yes.
And he said,
Yeah.
Kubrick's like, James Cagney is my favorite actor. And he's like, that's what Jack Nicholson did. He was James fucking Cagney,
Yes.
you know?
Oh man, yes.
And so if
Totally.
you don't like James Cagney, you're not going to get what he's doing in this
Yep.
movie, you know?
Yep.
And
So true.
and you think about it, you know, and you're like, that's true. I
Oh,
mean,
man,
it's,
yeah,
it's,
absolutely. Yep.
It's total passion. you
Oh
know?
yeah, absolutely.
Just like rip roaring.
Yep.
Like, who cares if this is real or not?
Yep.
Right? Like,
I mean, it's great. Who is the Cagney of right now?
mm-hmm.
Do we have one?
Jack Black.
I'm trying to think. I mean, because I love Cagney, but
Yeah.
I always loved that, like, forget words, I'm just going to punch you in the face, right? And that was like totally, he played those types of characters, right? Like right on top of you.
Yeah.
Very
veins bulging in the forehead. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this quality of almost being dangerous,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Well, exactly.
Like,
yes.
like a little bit like a wild animal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Totally. And that hair helped too.
Yeah.
His hair was fucking awesome. He had the
Yep.
best hair. And it's funny too, because like all of his great movies are in black and white, but you know that guy, if you could see him, man, that was like some beautiful red, curly, wavy hair
Right.
that in a fist fight would just look like a total madman.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it would be like Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka.
Yeah, right.
like,
Exactly.
just
Yes.
everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But always dapper and dangerous, you know.
Yeah. Just like a mad dog. And Nicholson really took that to heart, man. He's something else in this.
Yep.
And it's funny thinking about, you know, I think I didn't really like Nicholson until I got much older, you know.
Oh yeah.
When I was younger, I remember I loved the movie Batman, the first Batman.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
And I was like, why is Nicholson getting billing over Keaton? You know,
Right.
all the posters say Nicholson,
Yes.
Keaton, Basinger.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I know he's a good actor. People, you know, have a lot of respect for Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
But like Keaton is Batman. Why isn't, you know?
Right.
And it wasn't until much later I realized, like, oh man, you know,
Yeah.
Nicholson is like something else. Like,
Totally. He's kind of
He's, I mean, especially
you couldn't go any higher. Really.
Yeah,
I
right,
mean,
right. Like, and especially in the '80s too.
Exactly.
I mean, he just,
Yep.
He was the king shit. You
Yep.
know? So, and I feel like probably 70% of why he's so awesome is from The Shining.
True. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yep.
The Shining.
Chinatown.
And Chinatown.
There we go. Yep.
And maybe Five Easy Pieces or one of those.
That's
or
a good one.
Easy Rider. But like they're like
Going West. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one he did with Brando? That one's good too. Oh, Mississippi, Missouri.
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's a Western.
Okay. Yeah.
It's got the Missouri rivers in the title of it. It's called like Missouri Rising, or our viewers know. I can't remember, and I don't have my computer open. But anyway, it's really good.
Yeah.
but one of his lesser known ones. I think Going Out West. Was it called Going Out West? That comedy. It was like a.
Was that with like the noose on the cover? And he's like looking through it. Yeah.
That was the first time because my mom really turned me on to westerns, and so I remember seeing that when I was young, and I was thinking, this guy's great, right? Because it's kind of like Christopher Lloyd's in it. He's the hangman in it.
Awesome.
It's a really good movie, but it's kind of it borders on just being kind of not a
goofy?
romantic comedy, but a little bit goofy. There's a lot of humor in it, you know. But it's all about him, about his character, right? He's going from this kind of like bum who's about to get hung, and then it's a redemption, one of those rise, fall, rise kind of stories, you know?
Right. That's cool.
Rise, fall, redemption. But it's a good one. But no, you're absolutely right. You know, you got Easy Rider, Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
and The Shining.
Yeah.
That's really what made him.
Oh man, and then it was by The Shining. I mean, that was
he could just do whatever he wanted after that.
And thanks, Jack. I know you're listening out there.
And I love watching the making of things too, where you just see him kind of just swaggering around, you know, and he's got his cigarette going, and he's like, "Hello," he's just waving to everybody, and he's just
my favorite was
star.
the one where he's getting psyched up.
Yeah.
He's like in the room and he's kind of like bouncing around. He's like, okay, I got to get, you know, he's not saying it, but you can see he's like he's getting in the mind. Okay.
So good. So good.
It's great to see them, the actors, you know.
It's like a sport or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I mean, totally.
They're warming up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, how could you do that cold, right?
Right.
I mean,
there's no way. Yeah. No way. No.
Have to be a little bit crazed.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm gonna flip the switch now.
Yeah. Man. I love it. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so Peter.
Yeah.
Give me your top 3 favorite moments. And they don't have, they can either be full scenes, they can be dialogues, or they can just be single shots.
Okay.
Anything like that. Anything you want.
Okay. What
intro, outro.
What immediately comes to my mind whenever I think about The Shining, it's that shot of the camera going in on him, and he's just looking, you know, and he's got the little bit of spittle going or something, and that's like the first time you know, like, okay, he's really losing it, you know. Such an iconic
really
shot.
Is.
And,
really is.
And I love that to me just says The Shining. You know?
Yes. Oh man. Yeah.
And let's hit it back to you. We'll go back and forth.
Okay. Back and forth. Yeah. Okay. I think one of the ones. Let's see. Okay, well, I'm gonna pick an easy one then. So the most haunting for me, which therefore has to be one of the best movies, is when he goes into room 237.
Yeah.
Naked chick.
Yep.
Turns into zombie chick.
Yes.
Absolutely horrific.
Definitely.
Without being blatantly gory or anything. I mean, it's not the sum of the parts unto themselves are not all of that crazy.
Yeah.
But that Art Deco room, the way that room is green and it's lit and it's so freaking creepy.
It's feverish, right?
It's like Oh, it's pure fever dream.
All the colors in there just
yeah. And then the granny in the bathtub, man, and just
you know,
kill me.
I mean that I think you hit on it right there, because that scene, if you think about it, you know, I saw The Shining, I think the first time was on TV.
Oh,
right?
yeah, sure.
So a lot of that was cut out too, right?
That's right, yep.
But then when I actually did see it, you know, I was like, you're seeing a beautiful naked woman.
Right.
And then immediately after that, you're seeing a rotten old, like actually rotting old lady.
Yes.
In the bathtub.
Yeah.
And the juxtaposition of those two things.
Right. Yes.
Of being like turned on and then being totally repulsed.
Yep.
Right back and back. I mean, I feel like that's Kubrick to a T, right?
Dude, yeah.
Like that's what he loved to do.
Perfectly executed.
Is just like turn you on and then disturb you right after. And then just see how you deal with that, you know?
Yep.
And I guess, you know, I mean, that's as far as getting a reaction out of somebody.
Yes.
What's more of a reaction than that, you know?
Right. And you know, and it's not even, and the thing is, it's not even like The Exorcist, where it's Reagan puking into somebody's mouth, right? Where that's sledgehammer.
Right.
That's like, blah! And everybody's like, whoa, shit.
Yeah.
This is like everybody's mouth. You're shocked.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't even know what to say.
You don't know
you don't want to look at anybody. You can't look at anybody's eyes. You know, you're like, oh, I'm shamed that I'm seeing this kind of thing. It's a whole different way of getting you.
Yeah,
right?
Totally getting under your skin. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite things that I learned, going to school, and one of my drawing professors told me this, where he said the worst thing you can do when you're making something is for somebody to say, "Oh, that's nice."
Right.
Right. He's like, you want them to either love it or hate it.
Absolutely.
If they hate it, they absolutely hate it, you've done your job,
That's
man.
right.
Like
so true.
You need to provoke people to have a reaction,
That's right.
And Kubrick does that every time, all the time.
Right. Yep.
That's why he's one of the greats, Because you cannot not have an opinion about his movies, right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
No matter where you sit.
I mean, you're getting at mediocrity, right?
Yeah.
The ultimate evil you can commit is to be mediocre.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, for even the most existential of us, you can't live in the most heightened of moments all of the time. And what that means is, although we're always reaching for it, most of our lives are mundane, right? You go to sleep, you take a crap.
Yep.
You
wash the dishes, you make some coffee.
Yeah. So the thing is, when we go to art, that's what we don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that.
That's so true.
You got to help us out, right? So then we get Dolly and Jodorowsky in our previous conversation that none of you will hear. You will once we get to El Topo and
we'll work that in somehow.
And Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes.
Episode 395.
You're right, though, man. I mean, that's why we love comic books.
That's right.
That's why we
true.
love
so
all
true.
that stuff, because it's such it's fantasy, but it's also like I mean, for me, that's the ultimate entertainment, is when you can just get outside of your skin.
Agreed.
And you can just be like, whoa, this is such a, this is so not me.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see this, or from this point of view or whatever,
Yep.
So,
that's why Guar is so good.
Yeah, you're right,
Pete. We'll let our listeners know. I think the last show we went to together was Guar. And for any of you who don't know, or especially for those of you who do know, Guar is a spectacle, and they're exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. To say that there would be anything mediocre about a Guar show is to absolutely be talking out your ass. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. But not only is it over the top, the execution is it's so spot on, right? These guys are playing the best thrash and hardcore and punk rock and ska in the world.
I know.
In full garb with
and shooting of
jizz cannons and the whole bit.
Man.
It's
I know.
Yeah. Yep.
That's totally it, man. Yeah. So I mean, and that's what's great about The Shining again is you have those moments where it's just you're shooting the jizz cannon, but then but then like the waves of blood coming down the hallways and stuff, right? But then there's just so much just little moments too, and little turning of the screws,
right? All the Grady stuff. I mean, that's really like getting you again into that like uncomfortable, pushing us as viewers into a corner.
Yep. Exactly.
Without being outrightly confrontational, but having it just be so like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, and that's one thing I wanted to get your opinion about again too. Was I remember you were telling me one of the cool conspiracy theories.
Yes.
That wasn't in Room 237.
Oh yes.
And it was about Jack himself.
That's right.
When he becomes crazy, and when what is really happening, and then what is happening in his book.
Yes,
right?
That's right. That's a prevalent running conspiracy on what is going on. And it's interesting. I think that's one of the ones that really has more legs, because the conspiracy theorists in this case are actually using the film to explain what they're seeing. They're not bringing their baggage in and then using their baggage to explain what they see in the film, right?
Yeah. Which is what
that's
whole
operating backwards. That's all of Room 237. The entire
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? Is I'm going to bring my baggage and I'm going to use this film to explain it, but the context for the conversation will be the opposite of that. Right? I'm going to explain the film with my baggage. That's funny, but no,
doesn't work. Yeah.
So this running idea, and any of our viewers, man, go on YouTube and just talk. Just type in there Shining explained, and this theory comes up a lot. And what it is that we're seeing there are two stories being told at the same time, and then one becomes the prevalent story. The thing is, as viewers, we are never outrightly told which story we're watching. So what I mean is in the beginning, when we meet the Torrances, we're seeing reality, right? So this is the real world. Here's Wendy and Jack and what's the kid? Danny.
Yeah.
And they're gonna go to
Overlook
the Overlook Hotel. Yeah. Jack's gonna get the job. That is all actually happening. Then the theory goes that Jack, when he does the interview and he explains that he's a writer and he's wanting to come, this is all true. This is all what's actually happening. And that as he's looking around at the Overlook Hotel, what he's doing is he is beginning to incorporate his real life into the horror story that he's writing. And so then what happens is, and it gets explained away that Kubrick gives you hints as to when you're seeing the real world and when you're seeing Jack's horror story. So anytime Jack is in the red jacket, that's all Jack in the book. That's not the real Jack. And then there's a million things, right? When they get into that whole why is it that when they come into a room from one direction in one scene and they come into it from a different direction in another scene and doors are on the opposite sides of each other and all that is because at one point you're seeing that in the real world when they are doing it, and then the other point of it is from Jack's perspective in his book. And so he changes things. Right? And so all of the ghost stuff, all of that is what we're seeing Jack basically writing himself as, but we're not privy to that. We just see it. But then it's his horror story.
It's an interesting theory.
It's a good twist. And you would be the one to be able to discount this because I haven't read the book, but you have. But that's absolutely none of that is in the book. None of this. There's two things going on, and so then if that's true, if none of that is in the source material, then that means that had to be totally a Kubrickian invention, right? And the reason I don't like that is that every example that they give of like the one that pisses me off the most is that so there's one scene where we see Danny in his room when he's in Denver, and you see the wall behind him, right? And he's got like stickers and posters on the wall. And that supposedly is in the real world. Then when you see it later when he's thinking back to it, but that he's in Denver and they're doing a flashback, then you see in his room there's a little picture of Dopey, the dwarf from Snow White, and that we're supposed to be like, Kubrick is saying you're a dopey asshole if you believe that any of this is real.
Right.
No, dude, I don't care.
It's a stretch.
I can't buy that.
No,
So, and the reason I have such a problem with that is that those when you start to go down that line of conspiracy, you're putting Kubrick onto this otherworldly level of storyteller where he's like this weird god figure, and he's just doing these ridiculously abstract things
just
that no one's ever
with
going to
you.
know, just to mess with you. And I can't buy that.
No.
I think he was way too savvy of a filmmaker,
Right.
and then he knows that no one would ever get that.
Right.
Okay, so that would be totally gratuitous on his part. Because I don't think his head was so in such a weird place that he's like, hey, I'm just going to fuck with everybody.
No.
Right? The point of The Shining was not to fuck with us.
Right.
Well, it was in one way, but
yeah.
not in the way that I mean where he's being antagonistic against his audience. Right.
He's not.
This guy has the ultimate respect for his audience.
Yeah, he's not making a movie and just being like, what other weird symbols and clues can I put in here?
Right.
He's trying to tell a story.
Right.
He's not just trying to.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And so my retort to that this idea that all of this is going on is that, back to what I said earlier, is that there are certain people who are getting creeped out for reasons that they can't explain, and so they're inclined to give these conspiracy theories that don't really take any evidence to support them so that they can feel comfortable about the movie.
Yeah.
I am okay not feeling comfortable about knowing the why.
Right.
And that's the thing you have to understand with art, man. Most artists are super freaking guarded about why they did something.
Right.
You can love it, right? But for all of you Tool fans out there, they're never going to tell you why.
Yeah.
They won't ever.
Yep.
Maynard, I hate to break it to you, people. I'm a huge Tool fan, but I know lots of Tool fans, and they're arrogant pricks. Maynard will never tell you why that lyric is in there. He's never going to do it. He'll play the word game with you.
Yeah.
And every interview they're ever going to do, he's never going to tell you why, because that's not the effing point.
Yep.
It's not for us to enjoy the art to know why that he did it that way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that in film we kind of get that too. There are certain decisions that get made for artistic reasons, but I don't think they're for antagonistic reasons on trying to confuse and trying to manipulate.
No.
Right, and if they are, usually those fail pretty miserably, right?
Exactly. It's
like, you're trying to manipulate me. This is a joke, right?
Well, then it's not even a movie, right? It's like something else.
No,
I don't even know what that is. You know, like why would you be more concerned doing that kind of stuff, playing games,
right?
Instead of just trying to tell a
good story.
Yeah.
And so then there's the real answer, Pete. You just nailed it. Well, if The Shining is anything, it's a fantastic exercise in telling you a story.
Yeah.
And the point of this story, it's not a love story. It's not a hey, we redeemed Darth Vader story. This is we're going to creep you the shit out story.
Right.
And if you're not comfortable with that, then you're not comfortable with it.
You're just not going to get it. Yep.
And that's okay, but
that's totally it. And that's why this is the shining example of that type of horror, though.
That's right.
You know, like we talked about this earlier. We said The Exorcist is kind of like the movie to creep you out with just like brutality.
Right.
Well, maybe not. Yeah. Brutality and just straight up, you know, scary demonic stuff, right? And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre is more the brutality, the
rawness,
raw. And then The Shining is just the weirdness,
right?
It's like, you know, those are the three type of like major horror flavors. I would say, right?
Totally.
And The Shining, I mean, it just kills it in the weirdness factor, and that's the thing. Yeah, if you need everything explained to you, then you're just never going to get it. You know,
that's right. That's right. You're absolutely right.
And you're not going to enjoy it. If you can just sit back and be like, this is a ride.
Yeah.
And this has made me think about all this stuff, and I don't know what this means, and it's okay.
Right. And I think hopefully our viewers, this is why you listen to us, people, is because we're sitting here having a dialogue and talking about it. But what you said is that we don't have to search out the absolute scientific literal. We don't search out for the actual quintessential why, because that's not why we went to watch it in the first place. Right. And that's where Room 327 shows you what the flip is on that. Because there are a whole other group of people who that's all they're concerned with, right? And it's, in my opinion, it's because this movie touched them in a way that they aren't comfortable with. Right.
Exactly.
And so they have to I'm grabbing gear shifters here, and I'm gonna find my way. And
it bothers them so much that it's like, why did this affect me such a deep way?
Sure.
I don't understand that.
Sure. Yeah. I think, you know, and the funny thing is, I think 2,000 years ago, there were people sitting around a campfire listening to somebody recite the Odyssey, and they were saying the exact same thing, right? They're like, why does this affect me? Why do I feel this way about this part? And, you know, and then it's Shakespeare was doing it, and there were people in the crowd having this exact same discussion about, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a great example. That there's endless people still to this day with all the conspiracies about Shakespeare too.
That's
was he real? Was he this guy? Was he that guy? Who cares? Right?
I know.
Like,
I know it.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
it really doesn't.
Let's just enjoy what they made.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And And
because you can lose it. I mean, that's the sad part. Is sometimes you lose. If the point is storytelling, you can forget that.
Yeah.
You can forget that it's trying to tell you a story.
Yeah.
It's not trying to invoke some kind of antagonistic explanation.
Yeah.
Right. I have to explain this.
Right. Or I mean that's so true. Like
I mean, politics. You can want to explain politics, right? That's all full of conspiracy and crap and garbage and lies, deception.
Yeah,
sure, that's all there.
It's a game.
But that's a game, right? Oh man,
it's the game of all games.
Oh,
right?
totally, right?
Yeah.
But that's not a movie storytelling.
They're not. It's not a game. You know, maybe there's game-like elements or something.
Sure, but that's in the telling of the story, though, right?
Yeah.
That's in the telling of the story where that that
kind of
puzzle
play,
piecing and trying to confuse you and those sort of things. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think The Shining. I mean, it's endless theories about what it means or what actually happened. You know, like why is Jack Nicholson in that photo at the very end,
right,
surrounded by that crowd, and it says July 4th, 1929 or something. And you know, I love it because like and both of us had the same reaction too, because they're just like, that's so creepy.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of where that's all you need to feel, you know.
That's right. That's right.
It's fun to speculate and be like, what does that actually mean? But
I know
you're never
we had
gonna
some great theories too.
Yeah.
But in the end, you absolutely pegged it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the idea, is that we're trying to think of it and explain it.
And
but in the end, it's the fact that our gears are going.
Yeah.
Full blast.
That was the point.
That was the point. Yeah.
To just creep us out to that level.
That's right. Is he a ghost? Is he the ghost?
Yeah.
Right? Is he a time traveler?
Right.
Does this keep happening?
Right.
Has this happened generation after generation after generation? Is this
it's endless.
Okay, did the writer Jack Nicholson see a photo but that it wasn't him in it, so then when he wrote the story, which is what we're watching, he put himself in the picture as that guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean
it's just
it's pick it, right?
Right. And I think that's horror, man. You know, that's horror, because the ultimate horror is when you see something that you can't explain.
Oh man, right.
No matter what it is.
Right.
And you sit there and try to figure it out You're never going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think that's that that's like the scenes with Danny. I think that's what's happening, right? So he's questioning whether or not he's seen the twins, and he's seeing the door open. And then when Wendy sees the blood coming out, right? That's what's happening. Is they're in that moment of where like they're seeing it, and it's just the fact that they are seeing these things is so horrific that they are where we are about the movie. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about too was when Nicholson, that scene we just talked about with the naked lady in the bathtub, and then we cut from that to another scene, and then he just walks into the room, right?
Yeah.
So like, what happened between that when he's freaking out and he's like, whoa, and the old lady's coming at him? We don't see anything after that,
right?
You know, where did he go? What did he do? What happened? How did he get out of there? You know? And then, to make it even more confusing, he's just like, oh yeah, there was nothing in that room.
Yep.
So then again, like, does that mean he's possessed?
Is he
now,
complacent to it? Yeah. Is he possessed? Did he pass out? And did it not happen? That's the other thing. Maybe it didn't happen. Right. Maybe he was actually staring at the wall with the tennis ball room, and then he imagined all of that, and then he went and walked in his bedroom,
and then he was like, "Oh, that'll be a good scene for my book."
Right.
Yeah, but again, it's that's the genius of Kubrick.
He
doesn't hold your hand through that.
That's right.
He's just like, you figure it out.
So good.
And I wonder too, like things like that. I wonder if he himself thinks about that, like you know what I mean? Like
I know,
because
I know. It seems like it would be so hard to, right?
Yeah.
Like until you really got to the editing room. But I mean, maybe he did though. Maybe that was part of his genius, was being able to be like,
they don't need that piece, or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah. but it's incredible. I mean, this just one scene after another, and go back to like the top three. What we were saying, I think we each had one.
That's right.
The other thing that jumps out to me every time I see it too, and I always get caught off guard because I forget about it. It's that guy in the bear costume that's like giving a blowjob to the other guy.
Blowjob to the other guy out of nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's just happening back there, and then they both turn and look, and and you're just like, what?
Right.
I mean, it's such a out of left field, like what is going on here?
Yep. Yeah. That's a great point too, because now we're kind of getting at the point. You know, the movie's awesome, right? In that once Jack has decided, you know, the stairway scene. Once he's fully committed to killing Wendy, the movie ratchets up so quickly from that point.
Right.
It's like this very slow burn.
Yep.
Awesome though, not boring. Not. That's not what I mean.
No, it's that tension build.
Very right. Like you're slowly descending to hell.
Yep.
But then what happens? It's like you're descending slower and slower and slower and slower, and then all of a sudden. It just the floodgates open, and then it speeds up. Everything starts going fast. That like messing with timing like that. Oh, dude,
I know
it's so good.
That's a maestro, man.
It really is.
The symphony and like just I mean, it's
because the movie just really ratchets up. I mean, it starts taking off, and it's one thing after another, right?
Yeah, and then it really becomes like a chase and you know the scene where she's running around by herself, and then she turns the corner, and then it's that huge ballroom full of the cobwebs and the skeletons, which always makes me think of Raiders of the Lost Ark too. You know, when it's the same. It's almost like the same kind of thing where she's when she's down there and the skeletons, right? So, but then you know what's funny is both of us had this reaction too. The red hallway that she turns around and starts walking down. That's like 10 times creepier than the room full of skeletons,
isn't it?
Right?
Isn't it?
It's just so bizarre.
So disturbing.
It's just such a such a deep color and like and it just fills up the whole frame of the film, and you're just like it. You know, I mean, it must be that subconscious thing of like blood. You know.
Oh yeah, and it is. Well, and the other thing is that we've seen. He was real good about, you know, he keeps showing us all of these different locations, right? And so we're becoming familiar with them.
Yeah.
And then once everything goes to hell, then that you're subconsciously you want that to be just the regular
normal color,
the normal color, and it's that like nasty red, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
it's so unfamiliar, and so right. He's just so good at getting under your skin like that, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jack Nicholson is just endlessly entertaining to watch him too, right? Just the whole, you know, when he walks into the bar and he's ordering his drink and everything, and he's just all chummy with the bartender and stuff, and even that too is such a weird moment because you're just like, how does he know this bartender?
I know,
and, you know, why is he suddenly acting like this? Like, there's no
lead up to him. You'd have to be totally nuts.
Yeah,
you walk in there and you're totally crazy.
Just like.
But he's not like bewildered.
No,
he just goes, "Oh yeah, okay,
I'll have my usual." You know, it's like
I'm a little light.
Yeah,
your money's no good here, sir.
The guy who invented all the Blade Runners.
That's right.
Right, or the replicants. I mean,
yes, all the replicants.
Yeah,
he's there making mixed drinks.
For
Jack.
You're all right in my book. Oh man, so great. And so ultimately, you know, this movie, I think, it's just it will never stop being scary.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
Because there's just so much unexplained.
There is. So I'm gonna go with my number 2 now, and I'm gonna get an obscure one for number 2 because it really, the last time we watched it together, it really stuck with me. I was like, dang it, that really got me this. But it's the overhead shot. So Danny has his trucks, and he's playing in the center of this big carpet in the middle of it's like a quad area, right? And he's got his little trucks spread out, and there's this crazy geometrical shape on the carpet.
Yep.
And then he's sitting there, and then we're looking down on him, and you see a ball roll in and just very slowly stop. And then we see him look up, and nobody's there.
Yes.
Right? But then we see that if you watch the shot before the ball rolls in, and you instead of watching Danny, which is where your eye wants to go to the center of the shot, which is Danny playing with his toys.
Yeah.
And you say, skip that. I'm going to look at the geometric shape of the carpet. When it goes to the second shot of the ball rolling in, it's not the same carpet.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's these little things.
It's flipped, right? Is it almost like the mirror image?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like on one the kind of pathway of the geometric shape is going one way, and then it's going the other way.
It's going the other way, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think the conspiracy theories are so easy to get going, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, there has to be some huger, deeper meaning to why this is happening. When I think it's just to unsettle you.
Yep.
It's there.
That's the whole point.
To unsettle you, right? It's not I think anyone who would think that was an editing mistake or something is just they're too far in left field.
Right.
That really is, they really did that on purpose, but it's one of those just nice subtle things, because this movie is all about subtlety.
Yep.
All up until the stairway scene, it's a lot of subtlety. It's a lot of things building.
Exactly.
Once you get to the stairway scene, like we said before, then we're opening the gates. Then now it's kind of all out. You're in for it.
Right.
But it's those little things, and the fact that he's just playing there. The ball rolls up, and you expect for him to see his mom there. That's what I always thought.
I know.
He's gonna look up. And
There's his mom.
And then Wendy would be there like, oh, hey,
But
and that's what he's
there.
thinking.
Yeah.
And then he looks up,
nobody's there.
I know. Shit.
I know. It's great. I mean, and that's the thing. I think what we're getting at too here is that, just like you said, Kubrick was doing those things purely just to unsettle you.
Yeah.
There's no other deeper meaning behind it other than he knew this was kind of creepy.
Right.
And sometimes though, I think he himself also questioned or wondered, why is that scary?
Sure.
And he doesn't have the answer either.
That's right.
That's the thing.
I love that.
As moviegoers,
I love that.
We're thinking that he's, like you said, the big God that knows everything.
Right.
And so everything means something, and he has a specific reason for everything.
Yes.
When actually he's a human being too,
that's
right? And that's the whole thing. Is
that's right.
He's like, this creeps me out too. Check it out. What do we do with this?
What do we do?
And that's the whole thing. Is like you're constantly going, what do I do with this?
Right.
And almost every one of his movies is like that, though. They all have these moments where you're just like, they're so emotional. All these things are so emotional and just hit you so hard.
You're tapped into my brain, Peter. Yeah.
But I mean, like every single thing is emotional, and but it's not intellectual.
Right. That's right.
And so all these people are taking the emotional and they're trying to intellectualize
because they're scared.
And you can't do that.
I think. That's right. Yeah.
There's no way you can ever
ever
intellectualize an emotional reaction.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then if you're a Freudian and you get off on that.
Right. But
or
even,
Jungian for you Jungians.
But even then,
even then,
it's just theories, right?
Yeah.
Because
no, I'm with you. What's the fun in that? That's not why we go to movies.
Well, and that's the whole point of music and art and everything, right? Is if we could just intellectualize, why this is a good song, then we would just write it down.
We'd just be mathematicians.
Yeah, we would never listen to it.
And we would just talk algebra to each other. Boring.
And one of my favorite David Lynch quotes is like that too, where he's, they ask him why this is, and he's like, if I could tell you why, I wouldn't have to make the movie. So I can't just tell you why. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, I think that's Kubrick too.
Oh man. Like, yes. Yeah.
He's like, I'm working this stuff out too.
Yep.
Here it is.
Yeah. When you said unsettling, that's one of my favorite moments is it's right at the end of Full Metal Jacket. They've just killed the sniper. They're all standing around watching her die, right? Because she's not quite dead. They're like, and Joker's like, what do we do? What do we do? And he's like, and then the one dude's like, oh, well, somebody should kill her, put her out of her misery. And the other guy goes, fuck her, let the rats eat her. And then, it's like just ridiculous. The tension is just over the top, right? And so then Joker's like, no, that's inhumane, right? So he kills her. And then what does it cut to? them all marching out singing MIKCEYMOUSE Mickey Mouse as the city of Way is on fire. It's at night and the city's on fire and they're marching out. It's talk about fucking with us.
Yeah, totally.
Whoa, dude, he was so good.
Yeah,
but that's what you mean.
That's Kubrick, man.
That's what you mean. Yeah.
And he just loved that kind of stuff, you know. And I think that takes a lot of bravery too to go there. It takes a lot of courage to just be like, I'm gonna put this out there, and it's tough. I mean, I think every one of us that love Kubrick, we love his movies because there's such a experience, and they're so heavy, and there's so much. Yeah. They're actually dense too.
Oh man,
there's
totally.
a lot to work through, but we're never going to be like, okay, now I figured out the answer.
Right.
Oh, that's what this all means.
Right. Right.
So room 237, that's where we get angry at
yes,
because all of them figured it out.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, that's the deal. We are the antithesis of what that documentary is showing. And so, and we should clarify too. So the filmmaker, I think you and I agreed, the filmmakers were not there to push an agenda. No. They're there to show you something that's happening. And that's totally different, right?
They're just serving it up.
They're just, like you said, they have the platter and they go, here, check out
Look at this.
what this is.
Look at what this movie does to people.
And so as viewers of that, you can either be like, oh, hey, I'm all in. Oh, hey, that's kind of weird. Or I think kind of like us, we're like, not that.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Right.
What they're saying, what they want, what they're trying to do is not what's going on.
Yeah. Let's just highlight just a couple of the points that we're going to remember, just for people that haven't seen it. Okay.
Totally.
So there was one dude we mentioned earlier. Yep. He was the World War II guy.
Yes, the World War II guy.
And his big thing was that the typewriter was some certain type of brand, right?
That's right. Some German SS brand
and
that the SS.
Only they would know, and only they use that type and whatever.
That's right.
And then the typewriter changes some point in the movie.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the big clue as to this is all talking about the Jewish extermination and the Holocaust and all that.
That's right.
Doesn't really hold water. The second one was we also kind of mentioned was the woman watching the over and over, and and her whole thing was like the maze and the Minotaur, but also like wasn't she also
geometry of the room,
and she had maps and maps of why this room can't exist and all that stuff. Come on, I mean. We're gonna get angry if we start if we go into
and I think and one of the things we really pointed out too was that this type of movie theorizing in 1980 did not exist, right? Because you might have critics who would watch a movie 5 times when it was out, when it was relevant,
and they would have to go to the theater to see it.
And exactly my point. So they'd have to go there, and they would really have to do work to try to nitpick stuff out, because there was a very good chance in 1980 that you weren't going to see this movie again. That you couldn't really see it. Okay, maybe they're going to show it in a movie house again in 5 years or something, right? I mean, you can't. No one could tell the future, and so nobody in 1980. I don't care who they say, and I understand that VCRs at that point have been out for 5 years, right? Yeah. They still cost $500 in 1980.
Nobody.
They were not
those.
A household thing.
No,
that didn't come until the next couple of years, right?
Yep.
So what I'm getting at is
There's no
particularly the lady with the VCR.
Yeah.
She really showed that the kind of craziness you can get into when you sit and you will just neurotically watch the movie over and over and over and over again.
Frame.
Not for the fact of trying to know anything about the story, but you're doing some weird dissectional to it.
Yeah.
Right? And people just didn't ever do that before.
No.
My point is movies weren't made with the understanding that people would do that.
Yeah.
I think all that's changed is that movie makers now know that people will do that, and then they're just like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
Right.
I don't think continuity has hardly gotten any better.
No.
I mean, the simple fact of the matter is once they go to shoot a movie, they're on a time restraint.
Yep.
They don't have 5 years to shoot a movie because you would need endless amounts of money to keep everybody paid, right? To where you could go through and you could make it so bulletproof and reshoot everything 100 times and be like, okay, now there's absolutely no way that
there's no mistakes
you can find any discontinuity in anything, and that's just whatever. But yeah, her stuff was crazy. That whole this room, when they go into the office to do the interview, there can't be a window on the wall because we know where this room and this room and this room is, even though you never see camera angles from any of what she's talking about, right? And it's like,
and like we said too, like couldn't there be a courtyard behind him there, or couldn't It's just assuming way too much.
Oh
right?
my goodness! Yeah.
And the other guy, then there was one guy who was less annoying, but it was just kind of made you laugh. Was the guy with the Calumet cans? Yes. And it was talking about the whole Franco-Indian War or something.
Man, that was his whole thing.
That was just silly, right?
Well, especially that his one explanation, which I thought was just I was laughing when we were watching it, was that the peon guy, the assistant to the general manager, right? So when they're doing the interview, there's the general manager and his assistant, and that guy obviously was made to look like an American Indian by the way they did his makeup, to make you know that he was possessed by an American Indian. And it was his stuff. It was just like, stick a knife in it, dude. Come on.
And then there was the other guy who I kind of hooked on to a little bit what he was saying in the beginning when his thing was all about like the Americana of this movie.
And
like how the boss in that room looks like JFK. Right. And there's the eagle statue behind him and the flags, and there's all this kind of American symbolism and stuff. But then I think he was also the same guy though that was like all the subliminal sexual stuff.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, and he stands up, and obviously
that's a huge boner. The poster behind him made a boner, right?
Like, what? No, I'm not. I don't get that.
No. And then all the stuff, all of the explaining the fake moon landing footage.
Oh yeah.
And that like there was this ridiculous this idea that Stanley Kubrick was just having a horrible time. He couldn't sleep at night because of having to fake and lie about it. And he's lying to the general public along with the U.S. military about the faked footage. And so that's what a lot of that, like the sweater and
the Apollo 11 on the sweater.
There was some other weird one.
The whole movie was like his apology.
Yeah,
to America,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, for faking the moon landing.
Yeah, the problem I have with that is like it's so gratuitous.
I know.
You're saying that Stanley Kubrick is this great filmmaker, but you want to burden him with this ridiculous gratuity,
wasn't he?
And self-serving weirdness.
Wasn't he? I mean, I love this. He says room 237. The reason why he chose 237 is because the distance from the Earth to the moon is exactly 237,000 miles.
Yes.
And then if you look at the sign that says room 237, what words can you make out of the word room?
Yes.
Moon room.
Moon room.
Okay.
Obviously.
So that was just entertaining, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are just some of the theories. In
man, we can't even.
Yeah,
you'd have to take cliff notes on it. It's just so kind of crazy, but good. I mean, people, you should really go watch it if you haven't seen it. Just for the, hopefully you come out it. You'll come out it however you will, but we definitely came out of it with a better understanding the second time.
Yeah, on that
it's it's more of an expose on fandom than it is on the film.
On the film itself, right? Yeah.
It'd be, you know what? It would be great if they did the exact same thing for people explaining Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, that would be really fun. That would be very entertaining. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's and I love that documentary for the style of it too. Though.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's great.
Like the whole thing is just made up of clips of other movies.
Right.
And The Shining.
Yes.
But you never ever really cut away from anything.
No.
That's not part of another movie, at least. Which is kind of cool.
It is.
Using film to talk about this film. And,
Yep.
I like it.
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, is there any other points we need to make about The Shining, about how awesome, or why this is such an awesome movie?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the question, isn't it? For people who are like on the fence.
Oh, there's a billion reasons.
Man.
Every single thing.
Everything. So cast, production, visuals we cannot understate the visuals.
Can you? I mean, remember that shot of the maze and above?
Oh yeah.
Above.
Oh, like, unreal.
Like, how did they? You're still.
We still don't know how they. I mean, it's got to be. It has to be a composite shot, but it is so flawlessly executed.
Flawless.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I love how I saw recently, I think I sent you the picture of that where they were looking at Nicholson's tie.
Oh yeah.
And they were comparing like the maze in his tie with the maze of the garden, and like that's so great.
Uh-huh.
Man. Yeah, just one thing after another though.
Yeah.
It's just full of awesomeness.
Yep. Yeah, for those of you like to get creeped out, I mean, we're probably talking to the choir here, but it really is an exercise in horror, in subtle horror. It's got its, like we said, it ramps up. It definitely ramps up, but it doesn't ramp up anywhere. I mean, it's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's no Exorcist. No. It doesn't ramp up in the same like way.
Right.
Ramps up in a very different way.
Yeah.
But it does ramp up. It's not. It's not like a. Not. It's not a purely.
It's not pure atmosphere.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
There's a lot happening in there. You made a point at one point where you said that everything could exist. How did you say that? Basically, the only thing that doesn't gel is the fact that when he's in the meat locker.
Oh yes.
Grady comes in and saves him. That's the only thing that's supernatural. Actually.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the one thing. So that's where I think. I mean, there's two ways to look at that, right? One is to take it very superficially and say, yeah, obviously the place is haunted. Yeah. The place is haunted. He's talking to ghosts. Yeah. He sees ghosts, and the ghosts now let him out of the meat locker. Yeah. Right. The other way is to go down this unexplained, far more conspiratorial idea that he's in his book. So he's able to write himself out of it. But that's because what we're seeing is pure fiction. So it's not reality, so it doesn't matter. And then that's also in just kind of a cheesier way, but that's why we're seeing the ghosts, right? I mean, they're there because it's all fiction. The whole thing is fiction. Right. I tend to like the first explanation better. I like that it is haunted. The place is actually haunted. I don't really... I mean, I think it's cool to think of it like there might be two parallel things happening, but I think there are stories that do that so much better. Where you know that it's like we're dealing with two parallel universes happening at the same time, and what happens here happens there. I mean, look at the Avengers Infinity War, right? I mean, that's where that's all going to lead to, I'm pretty sure, is into some parallel alternate universe where one thing happens and in another it didn't. But in this, I don't think any of that's necessary. None of that's necessary if the place is haunted. If we take that very simple explanation, then everything falls directly into line, including him getting let out of the meat locker. But
but if you took the track that this was just all or he was just really going insane, and that was it, then that wouldn't be explained though.
Exactly. Then he would have been stuck in the meat locker.
Right.
Yeah.
So so that almost points to it, like you said, the first option. Yeah, it's just haunted.
Yep.
That's what happens when you build a hotel on an Indian burial ground. Come on, people.
See, now, those poor dummies back then, right? See, they build this hotel on the Indian burial ground, and we get The Shining. Yeah. Then some jerks go building it in the suburbs in L.A., and Craig T. Nelson's poor family gets eaten by a tree and falls into a half-built pool. And
again, full of skeletons, too.
Yes, right.
And zombies. And...
Man, you can't mess with people's burial grounds.
Yeah, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Well, where are we at now? How far?
We're at we're about almost an hour 20 in.
All right. I think that's about our our usual.
We're doing
right?
good.
Yeah.
To recap one thing, just a little teaser for all of our listeners who have sat through with us this far, to catch up on the teaser that we made last episode with The Exorcist. This is part 2 of our big trilogy. So we're doing kind of what Peter and I came to grips with as being the most seminal and important horror movie trifecta.
Yeah.
That shaped what we know as horror in the modern era. Yep. So not the Universal early era or the Hammer era of the 50s and 60s, but what we really have come to, our thesis has kind of revolved around that the 3 most important movies that define horror as we know it now are The Exorcist, which you just listened to before this episode, The Shining, and then next episode's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because as Peter pointed out earlier in this episode, those 3 movies touch on all of the major themes that are now quintessential and prevalent to everything that we know about horror. There's some more obscure stuff, but I think we would both agree. Well, I'll let you agree with me or not, but these are the 3 cornerstones that allow anything else to happen.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Everything else kind of just branches off of these.
Falls out.
One or the other, kind of, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's not to discredit. I mean, what we're not saying is that nothing is original except for these 3 or anything like that. But these are the 3 doors that open and allowed. You know, you have to have The Shining. You have to have The Exorcist. You have to have Texas Chainsaw Massacre to get Poltergeist. To get The Thing. To get
to get all these other kind of fusions and These are the 3 main flavors, man.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, in all the movies that we love, all the horror greats, you can trace back to these, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, man. Whew.
That I think that goes right back to. Well, actually, that goes back to a little bit of The Exorcist, and a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly. Right? Yep.
It's kind of both shoots.
Yep.
But the whole slasher subgenre of the '80s.
Yes.
That's all Texas Chainsaw
That's
Massacre.
all. I mean, really, it is. Yeah.
Freddy.
Yeah. Even. I mean, I think we were talking about this before, but the floodgates opened with, kind of in a 1-2 punch, a lot closer with Halloween and Nightmare Friday the 13th.
Right.
The thing is, you can't have those 2 movies without Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yep.
So establishing that you're going to have a group of teenagers. I mean, just the biggest of tropes.
The tropes
are all found first in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
Yeah. And so then everything delineates out of that. And for the big movie franchises, they really culminate probably in Nightmare on Elm Street was kind of the new kid on the block, as it were. 1984. That came a little bit later. Yeah. But or the Leprechaun, I guess he came even later, right? That was like 1989 or 1990.
Yep. But still, I mean, that was all.
But yes,
all owed to the forefathers.
Yes, big time, big time. So. Because I mean, Hellraiser. Even you can't. For how awesome Hellraiser is, you can't have it without Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You just cannot.
Without
visually, I mean,
face.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Well, it'd be fun too, I think, at some point to look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh, sheesh.
It's such a different movie.
It's epic, right? Isn't it?
It's
great.
It's
so different, and it is so epic.
I know.
Oh, man.
It really is.
And I was guilty of this. I didn't find that one until way later.
Yeah, me too.
And then I was like, oh, it's going to be a cheesy, dumb-ass sequel.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it is so epic.
That is.
It is so epic.
It's such a...
It's big budget.
Yeah.
That story is... oh, dude, it just... You can't believe where it takes you, right?
I know.
I mean, there's the chase scene on the road. We're gonna end up on the freaking Carnival Mountain of Doom thing.
Dennis Hopper, too.
Dennis Hopper is a bounty hunter. It's so crazy and good.
It is.
And that version of Chop Top is the best one, man. The Bill Moseley version. Yeah. That Chop Top. Yeah,
so good.
I mean, Bill Moseley. I'm pretty sure his career moved forward from that point on. But Yeah, the eating his scalp with the burning.
Oh,
He's got the little lighter, burning the hanger and scratching pieces of his scalp off.
So good, so good.
And eating it.
Oh man. And I mean, even just looking at the poster of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where it's a parroting the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, right.
I didn't find that out till much later either.
Brilliant.
Like that says everything right there.
Yes. I so wish that was the cover to the DVD version I have. I have like the Walmart DVD version from like 2001. And it's just a photo of Dennis Hopper.
I kind of like that better though.
Yeah. He's in his cowboy outfit. Oh, it's so stupid looking. Oh man.
Awesome.
But
Dude.
yeah, so hopefully we've got you guys hooked for the next episode.
Yeah, and this is a very, this is an important episode, man. This is our episode 10 right now.
It is. I know.
We're in double digits now.
What do you guys think of that? Huh? Yeah, leave some comments for us.
It's pretty great.
We're finally to episode 10.
Yeah. And
I know it. And so Texas Chainsaw Massacre will be 11.
Yep.
We've bounced some ideas for episode 12. Maybe bringing Mr. Corso back.
Yep.
We'll leave we'll use that as a teaser. We'll just tell you. We might bring Mr. Corso back and do a film that he is really interested in doing. And then I think it's probably for our fans. If you don't know what we're going to do for episode 13, there's probably something wrong.
Oh yeah.
So
that's going to be fun.
Yeah. And that's as far as we're thinking.
Yep. So yeah, let us know if you think we should watch. I mean, we also got to do Wormwood too, man.
Oh, we do. Sooner than later.
That's another one that's like,
yeah,
it's
pressing. I've been thinking about it a lot lately too.
It's when you talk about zombie movies.
Sheesh, dude.
I mean, it's the next level zombie.
Yeah,
movie.
right. It's kind of like you had Romero really established what it meant.
Yeah.
And then there was such a ridiculous proliferation, and some of it really good, some of it not so really good.
Yeah.
And then Wormwood was like, man, we're gonna flip it.
Yep.
Holy crap, did they flip it?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
So cool. All right,
everybody.
It's
been fun. Thanks for hanging out with us for this hour and a half, and we hope you enjoyed. And on behalf of my co-host, Peter Vankman,
yes,
and myself, Dr. K, until next time, thanks for hanging out with us at
The Neighborhood Watch.